Today, we're diving into a really powerful story about one family's incredible journey. It's an account from a woman named Johanna Klockner, who documented her fight after her husband was given a grim cancer diagnosis. It's a story that really shows the power and, well, also the puzzles of patient-led research. So let's set the scene. It's January 2024. Johanna's husband gets a devastating diagnosis, stage 4 non-small cell lung cancer. And this thing was aggressive. It was in his lymph nodes, and he had so many tumors in his brain that the doctors, they literally just stopped counting at 12. The prognosis they were given, 5 months to live. That's it. And this quote from Johanna, it just gets right to the heart of it all. You can feel the urgency. This wasn't just a fight against a disease. It was a desperate race against the clock to find information. She knew if she had to figure it all out from scratch on her own, she'd run out of time. So what do you do when you're faced with that kind of reality? Well, Johanna didn't despair. No way. She immediately pivoted and just dove into intense, focused research. And one of the first really critical decisions they made was to actually refuse the standard treatment of whole head radiation. They were worried about the long-term cognitive side effects, so they started looking for alternatives. This was a proactive search for an arsenal. Johanna just immersed herself in books, especially from authors like Jane McClelland, and started building a whole new foundation of knowledge. And all this research, it's what gave them the confidence to go their own way, to seek out this combination of targeted radiation and other integrative treatments. It was their first real step in taking back control, and their journey was unbelievably intense. I mean, just look at this timeline. Right after they start their new regimen, a totally separate life-threatening crisis hits, a cardiac tamponade. It was after he got out of the ICU for that emergency that they decided to add conventional chemo and immunotherapy into their plan. It all led to this really remarkable outcome just over a year later. Their whole philosophy became really simple, but also really powerful. The cancer was aggressive, so they figured their response had to be just as aggressive. Their thinking was, let's block them all. And that led them to this incredibly complex, multi-pronged battle plan. And when I say complex, I mean it. It was like a war on 3 fronts. You had conventional medicine, chemo, immunotherapy, radiation. Then you had treatments from an integrative clinic, like IV vitamin C and heat therapy. And then, on top of all that, there was a whole list of off-label drugs they researched and administered themselves. I mean, just look at that. It's a staggering combination that goes so far beyond standard care. But here's the thing, it wasn't a straight line to success. Not at all. The early scan results were, well, they were confusing. The strategy seemed to be working in some places, but failing in others. It created this real mystery that even their conventional oncology team couldn't quite figure out. So here was the puzzle. On one hand, you've got amazing news. Tumors were shrinking, even those dozens in the brain. But at the same time, 2 brand new tumors had appeared and were growing fast. Now, the chemo and immunotherapy are systemic. They go everywhere. So they should have affected all the tumors equally. So what on earth was different about these 2? Well, Johanna had a theory. She went back and looked at their huge, complex protocol, and she realized there was one treatment that wasn't systemic, the oncotherm heat therapy. That was applied locally, just to the known tumor sites. And you guessed it, the 2 new, growing tumors, they were the only ones that had not been targeted with the heat. For her, this was the light bulb moment that explained everything. And this is where the journey gets even more complicated. Because it wasn't just about finding answers. The deeper Johanna went, the more she uncovered these really difficult scientific dilemmas, situations with no easy answers, where she was forced to make these incredibly tough decisions. So one of these big dilemmas was about a group of things called 5-LOX inhibitors. Now, that sounds technical, but we're really just talking about common supplements, curcumin, boswellia, things like that. They're widely believed to help fight cancer because they block certain inflammatory pathways. So naturally, they were a big part of their plan. But then, her research uncovered this. Major conflict. A real catch-22. So on one hand, you're blocking these cancer pathways, which is good. But the potential risk? A study she found suggested that for lung cancer,
Blocking this specific pathway might also stop your body's own immune system, the T cells, from being called in to attack the tumor.
This puts you in just an impossible position, right? As Johanna herself asked, do you leave that pathway open and hope your immune system does its job? Or is that just asking for the cancer to mutate and find another way to grow? There is no simple right answer to that question. And the questions just kept coming. I mean, she even started digging into their liposomal supplements, the ones that are specially designed for better absorption. The problem? Turns out the very substance that makes them absorb so well could also potentially be used as fuel by cancer cells. It just shows you the relentless, down to the smallest detail level of her research. So, after months and months of this intense strategy, navigating medical crises, celebrating these small wins, and wrestling with all this complex science, the family got some news that changed absolutely everything. In July 2025, New Scans delivered 3 incredible letters. N-E-D. No evidence of disease. After everything they had been through, from a 5-month prognosis to near-fatal complications and all-out war on this disease, this was the outcome of their relentless efforts. And this wasn't just a victory for the family. It was a statistical anomaly. Their own oncologist, who was overseeing more than 220 other patients with the exact same diagnosis, confirmed that this response was, it was unlike anything they had ever seen before. But Ned, no evidence of disease is not a cure. And Joanna is really clear about this. The fight is still on. She knows that scans can't pick up on microscopic disease, so they are staying the course. They're continuing with the full protocol, the diet, the exercise, the whole shebang. And that brings us to this final message of just profound gratitude. This whole journey was this amazing combination of medicine and relentless, patient-driven research, and it was all fueled by knowledge shared by others. It's such a powerful testament to what can happen when a family, armed with information, decides to forge a new path. It really leaves you with a big question, doesn't it? As more patients become researchers in their own right, how is that going to change the very practice of medicine itself?